Welcome to Business Insight Fredericton. I'm Krista Ross, CEO of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. Today, I'm visiting Saltwinds Coffee Company and learning all about it from Brad and Laura. Tell me about Bernadette.
Well, Bernadette's our new coffee roaster. She's a 20-kilogram roaster, which means she can move a serious amount of coffee per hour.
So Laura and Brad, tell me a little bit about your business. What do you do at Saltwinds Coffee Company?
We're really more about selling coffee experiences to people. We do something a little different than most companies do. We actually have a coffee that it's based on when it first came to Canada on the wooden sailing ships. So the ocean air used to infuse the coffee beans. And we'd heard a story that when it went from the wooden sailing ships over to the steel hulled ships, people wanted the old coffee back. So we decided to see if it was true, and as it turns out, it is true, and we just decided to start a company around it.
How long have you been in business?
Just over a year. So we started the company when Brad told me about a story he'd heard growing up on Campobello. And when he told me, my chemistry head started turning, and I thought, well, maybe that's not apocryphal. Maybe the voyage really did change the coffee. So it was during the pandemic, we started playing around in the garage to see if we could recreate that taste. And after a lot of failed batches, we came upon a recipe that really worked, and it made a delicious coffee. So last summer, we decided to go to the Garrison Market in Fredericton and just have a go at selling our coffee. And we sold out almost every week, which motivated us to take this and turn it into a fully fledged business.
You mentioned your chemistry background. Have either of you had a background in a coffee business, or what is your background?
Well, I don't come from coffee, but I come from chemical manufacturing, and that's what coffee roasting is. So I used to work at Procter & Gamble, and so that manufacturing experience has really helped me to build up the processes and the procedures that we need to roast coffee every day.
I started my first business shortly out of university, and I actually turned it into the busiest website in Canada at the time, and it was probably the first profitable online advertising company, I believe, in the world, or at least in North America. So, and I've kind of gone from there to a number of other businesses.
So has this become a full-time job for both of you?
I gave notice at my job. I used to work in a government organization about 7 months ago, and Brad's just in the process of transitioning to full-time also.
And I know you've recently hired some staff as well. So the business is really growing.
It is. We have a team of 10 people now who work with us to produce Saltwinds coffee and distribute it across the Maritimes.
Tell me specifically about the different products that you have, the different coffees that you have.
We spoke about our ocean air infused coffee, the one that recreates the way coffee used to taste when it came here on sailing ships. That one's our signature coffee, but we've got a whole range of other coffees. We do traditional blends like medium roast and breakfast blends. We do espressos. We have a great decaf. And we have a really big range of flavored coffees. Our flavored coffees are a little different. They go back to that story of coffee coming here on sailing ships. And what they do is they're inspired by other products that would have been in the ship with coffee back in the day.
You've talked a little bit about your special blend that is inspired by the wooden sailing ships. What truly makes your product unique?
We want to really create an experience, because coffee is about feeling good. People drink coffee because it makes them feel good. It might take them away to
Yes, it does.
on a little trip, right? So our ocean air coffee will take you back maybe to the age of sail, and you think about this coffee coming up from the Caribbean on these wooden ships with the warm, salty air infusing the beans. Or maybe you like flavored coffees, so you have a coconut coffee hot or as an iced coffee, and it takes you maybe to the Caribbean for to a favorite vacation you were on or something like that.
I'm interested in learning more about sort of the retail versus wholesale aspect of your business. Where's your focus?
So selling direct to retail, direct to the consumers, and also with our website has been very popular, so we do a lot with that. So we're just now getting into really wholesaling to gift stores, to tourist shops, and also into the grocery stores. We're just starting into some of those now, and they're really different channels, and they have their own challenges, and they're fun in their own way, and they have their own challenges in their own way. So, But we really see the wholesale as being the future. That's where most coffee sales happen.
So tell me about this equipment that you have. This looks like a pretty large roaster. Tell me about how that will change your production.
We started on a tiny little demonstration roaster. It was only ever meant to bring to a trade show and do 1 or 2 sample roasts with. So when we were just going to the farmer's market, we thought, okay, well, that's good enough to get started. And before we knew it, we were running that machine 10 hours a day. So our next step was to buy a 5-kilogram roaster, which we purchased last summer. And now we've got that machine on double shifts too. So we've got to move up now to Bernadette, who's a 20-kilogram roaster, and will let us go to serious capacity. In addition to Bernadette, we've got a whole suite of associated equipment that's going to be in this new roasting space. So as it takes shape over the next couple of weeks, we'll be turning out even more bags of Salt Winds coffee.
So is the idea that you might be able to purchase Salt Winds coffee from coast to coast to coast?
Right now we're focusing on Atlantic Canada because that's where we are, and it makes sense to stay close to home at the moment. But we're definitely looking to branch out to other markets outside of Canada even.
So you mentioned you have a website. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we kind of set that up just as a trial during our initial trials at the market. So we set up and kind of said, well, would anybody buy this coffee? We think it's great, and the Ocean Air Infusion story is amazing, as Atlantic Canadians. But would people from outside of Atlantic Canada actually like the story, and would it resonate with them? So we set up our online store, and it immediately started selling, and it's just been growing just at a steady rate ever since. So we're in the process actually of redoing it now. We plan for that to be a key part of our retail going forward.
So you're pretty early on in the game, but have you had any recognitions or awards or anything like that so far?
To our surprise, yes. So we went to El Salvador in March for the Producer Roaster Forum. It's an international conference and competition for coffee roasters. We were definitely among some of the smaller players there. It attracts major international coffee roasters and coffee buyers. Nonetheless, we decided to bring our humble little maritime product and enter it into their international championships. I was up there on the main stage making a cold brew cocktail beside international award-winning baristas. But we put our best game forward, and we took home 3rd place. So
Amazing.
The bronze medal in the International Cold Brew Championships for our Ocean Air Infused coffee, we took a real New Brunswick product. We had our Ocean Air Infused coffee, to which we added dulse and a little bit of maple syrup that had been aged in a barrel, the Wabanaki product. We shook that up, served it in a mason jar, and the judges just loved the simplicity but the depth of flavor.
How do you actually get your message out to your potential clients? I'm really interested in your social media presence. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so social media is so important these days. Everyone is on some sort of social media of all ages. It's also very challenging in that there's certain demographics kind of that are on different types. So there's Facebook and a lot of the Meta platform is an older demographic, and then you have your TikToks and some of the newer social media sites that are for the younger demographic. And we do have 2 very clear marketing sort of plans that we're going out with. One for sort of an older demographic that we do, and we do use a lot of Meta advertising, both organic and paid advertising. And then we are just starting to get into TikTok and some of the other social media platforms.
You mentioned you have about 10 employees now. What are the different roles that people have in the company?
Obviously, there's a lot of marketing staff to support the campaigns that Brad outlined, and then there's a roasting team too. We started off with me doing all the roasting and the bagging, the packaging, but obviously we've reached a scale now where I needed some help, so we've got 2 other folks who roast with us. We've got people who help us bag the coffee and package it, and then we have folks who help us deliver it. So we're starting to fill in the ends to ends of an operating company, really.
And will you still continue to do markets, the Garrison market and things like that, now that your company's growing?
We're signed up for it this summer.
The markets have been amazing for us in actually understanding what the consumers want.
It's a great
'Cause,
test market.
Yeah, I mean, we're right out there with them. You know, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Look, we can see what they're picking up and which ones do they most enjoy.
When you think about competition, who do you consider your biggest competition, and what do you do about that?
The reality is most coffee is sold at the grocery stores. It's sold by the multinational coffee companies. They're really one of our big competitors if you look at it from the perspective of other coffee companies. As far as the local companies are concerned, we think there's actually a really good opportunity there to collaborate with the other companies, because there's a huge potential to switch people from potentially some of these commodity coffees that, you know, frankly may not taste as good as the local roasters have, and switch them over to get more and more local coffees.
I couldn't agree more. I know Fredericton is becoming known as a craft brew city, and I think it's becoming known as a coffee city as well. There are some great roasters here.
You know, more and more seem to be coming out of the woodwork as the days go by.
Well, I know that we're lucky to have companies like yours as members of the Chamber, and other local roasters as well. So I've had a chance to try a lot of local coffees. I do love yours. It's delicious.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell me about your growth trajectory. Are you where you thought you would be a year ago, and where do you see yourself going?
This time last year, we were just starting selling. We were just about to go into the Garrison market for the first time and sell our first bag of coffee, I think.
I remember I just bought our first bag of green coffee. Green coffee comes in 60 to 70 kilogram bags, and I told Brad, we're never gonna use this bag.
Yeah.
This is a huge amount of coffee.
Right.
We'll never sell that.
Yeah.
Now we order 20 bags at a time,
Right. Yeah,
and I
every-
need to order again every couple of
month
weeks.
or 6 weeks, we're getting 20 of those. We basically took last summer as a test, and we said, okay, let's try this out. Let's see if people actually want this coffee. Let's see if we can develop some new flavors and other things that people want. And we'll make a go, no-go decision at the end of the summer in September. And it was a pretty clear go decision. You know, people just loved the coffee. We had sold like way more than we expected in the summer. So we've hit all of our revenue targets so far this year.
That's amazing. I love your branding. Tell me how you came up with the galleon or the ship that's in your logo, and tell me how you came up with the branding.
Right.
When Brad spoke about the need for a logo and a brand, and I have to say I wasn't really convinced, but we get comments like yours a lot that the logo and the brand really resonates with people.
Fantastic,
So that's
yeah.
all Brad.
We're out competing with the big guys, and it's all about brand, really. At the end of the day, you have to establish a brand. And we were looking to, at least initially with our Ocean Air coffee, it was all around like maritime brand, and we thought, you know what, there was some great images, just the visual of this, you know, these wooden ships coming in with this coffee on the deck. It just, you know, when you picture that in your mind, it's fantastic. So we thought, how can we capture that? So that's what we attempted to do, and we hear quite often from people that say, like, you know, it brings me right back to that time. I can imagine, you know, buying this at a store in the 1800s and having this coffee that was actually Ocean Air infused on these ships. So that's what we were looking for, and I think we were able to achieve it.
So far, you've been at it for just over a year. What would you say is your biggest success?
I think it's got to be the Ocean Air infused coffee. When we started, we didn't know if it was possible to recreate that taste, to capture that feeling of how coffee used to be. Took a lot of research. I've got a background in research, so for me it was really fun to play with it. But when we struck on that magic combination of ocean air and time and moisture and salinity, it's really something special.
So, of course, the flip side of your biggest success would be, I don't like to call it a failure, but what was your biggest learning opportunity?
I think with us, probably at the markets, we would try things, flavors we thought were home runs, and we would find out they maybe weren't as good as we thought they would be. And it's great. I mean, that's one of the great things about going to the markets, is that we get to talk to the people, and they will tell us if they do not like things.
What would you say has been the most challenging thing about starting this business?
I would say we're victims of our own success at this point. The coffee's been selling so well that we've had to ramp much faster than we thought we would just to keep pace with the sales and the interest. So we've got a solid plan in place. We've got a great team, fortunately, but just finding the hours in the day to keep pace with that and keep the rhythm going has been tough.
What do you like best about being entrepreneurs and about being in the coffee business?
For me, the favorite part of the coffee business, I've always had primarily IT businesses in the past, and nobody, including my family, had any idea what I did. It would be something to do with computers. So now when I say we have a coffee roastery, everyone knows exactly what we do, and it makes people happy. So a lot of IT companies don't make people quite as happy as coffee does. So.
How about you, Laura? What's your favorite part of being an entrepreneur and being in the coffee business?
I think for me, one of the most satisfying parts of the week for me is when I write the paychecks. To know that we've built enough of something here that we can not only support ourselves, but a whole team of people, and to sit down and get that money out to them for all their hard-earned, well-deserved work, like that feels really rewarding.
Welcome back to Business Insight Fredericton. I'm Krista Ross, CEO of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. Stay tuned to learn more about Saltwinds Coffee Company.
This is a medium blend coffee, and we try to keep with the sort of the ocean theme with the name. So this is our captain's blend.
As entrepreneurs, has anything surprised you? Have you encountered things that you weren't expecting?
The local support that we have here in Fredericton and in the Maritimes in general. Like Brad said, we're competing against big companies, multinationals with far more of a footprint and a brand and a history than we have. So what chance does a little maritime roastery have? Well, quite a good chance, it seems, because a lot of people are willing to come out and try a local company, try something new, go out of their way to find your coffee, because when you first get started, you're not in too many places, and that's been really nice to see.
So I know one of the things you pride yourself in is being planet friendly. Some of your marketing campaigns are even around being planet friendly. What does that look like for you?
For me, that aspect of our brand is really close to my heart. And one of the motivators for starting a coffee roasting company was that coffee has a really high carbon footprint. It's one of the highest of the beverages we commonly drink. So we decided to reinvent coffee roasting instead. So with my chemical background, we came up with some clever innovations to reduce the emissions in coffee roasting. And that gives you a coffee that's a bit better for the planet than traditional coffees.
So does that mean you probably wouldn't have such things as K-Cups?
Unfortunately, it's not in our plan right now. However, we are looking at more sustainable packaging methods, and so that may open up in the future as we source out new and different and better ways to package our coffee.
Have there been organizations that have helped you in getting your business going? And tell me a bit about that.
We've worked with a number of New Brunswick government agencies like DAF, the Department for Agriculture, Aquaculture and Fisheries. We've worked with Insight Fredericton and the Seed Fund. We've worked with the National Research Council. Coffee has a lot of technology behind it, and developing that technology is part of what NRC helps us to do. We're closely partnered with ONB. They've helped us to make a lot of connections and find different programs. And in general, just a number of government folks who've been willing to sit down, talk with us, learn where we're at, and see if they can help us move forward.
How do you feel about the economy or opportunities here in New Brunswick?
The economy has kind of dropped a bit in the last year, but I think it's a great time to be starting a business. I mean, we are hopefully coming to a low part in the economy, and I think if you can get started now, it gives you an opportunity to kind of build up for when the economy is going to come back again. I think it's pretty clear there's much sunnier days coming, hopefully not too many years down the road. I mean, we talked about that even starting the business. It's like, okay, the economy is starting to drop. What effect is that going to have? But I think as long as you plan for it and recognize what's going on with it, I think it's actually a great time to be starting a business.
I think it has to be said, Brad and I have worked all over the world. We could have started our business anywhere, but we chose to start it here. We think New Brunswick is a great place to do business.
Are there restrictions or things in your industry that make it more challenging, or are there barriers, or have you found that it's been easy to ramp up?
Coffee is a regulated business, so absolutely there's licenses and regulations that we have to follow, but that's no different from a lot of other industries. So luckily we've got the right knowledge and partners to help us map that out, make sure we get all those pieces in place, and we just fold that into our operations.
So one of the things I'm always interested in hearing from entrepreneurs is about the advice that they've been given. So I'd like to hear from both of you. What is the best business advice that you've received?
And we have some fantastic mentors that we work with there who help us with all aspects of the business. I think probably generally for entrepreneurs, it's just, you do have to manage your own sanity as well as what's going on in the business. So make sure you're still providing time for yourself to exercise and to do the things you need to do to maintain your energy levels, because you're going to need them for the challenges that are coming.
So if you were talking to someone about starting a business, someone who is thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, what would be the advice that you would give them?
Research before you start what you're doing, and give yourself lots of extra time, because things, especially now with supply chain issues and whatnot, everything is delayed at the moment. So just make sure you build into your plan flexibility around time, I think.
What do you think, Laura?
I would say to be willing to experiment. When we started the business, I think the coffees, the flavors that I thought would be the biggest hits weren't, and then the ones that I thought were just, quiet back burners were the superstars. So you've got to be willing to try different things, listen to your customers, look at the data, and adjust your own expectations.
So you're a year in. What are you most proud of?
I think we're sitting in it. We started this company in our garage, literally. Me playing around with this little demonstration roaster, and now we're in a fully fledged industrial space. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of bags of coffee to be sold to be able to invest in this kind of thing. One
of the things that provides a lot of joy and pride from my perspective is seeing the smile on people's faces when they pick up a bag of coffee, and when they smell it. A lot of people are like, I am going home right now to make this coffee. It smells so good, because coffee makes people happy. And I think, producing great coffee that people love is a real accomplishment from my perspective.
Where do you see yourself in a year from now? And look way down the road. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, a year from now, we should be in other markets, probably in Canada. 5 years down the road, I think we're going to be a market force in the world. So, and I think we have a clear plan right now that we're executing on, and so far it's working for us. So, and I'm sure there'll be lots of challenges on the way, but yeah, that's kind of where we're looking. So, hopefully North America for sure, and probably other countries, I would expect.
What's your next project?
Well, I think our next big step is expanding our network of partners who sell our coffee. So we've been lucky so far that a number of stores have approached us. They saw us at the market, at little shows, and said, boy, this coffee is really something. Can we sell it in our store? And that's been great. Now we really want to follow that route through and see how many retail partners we can attract. So we've hired sales staff now who are going to go out there, help us talk to the stores, get them on board, and push our coffee out to as many people as we can.
And from a product perspective, we're really focused on expanding these experiences that I've been talking about. So we just brought in 6 Gen Zers into the company, and we've been very much with them saying, what does your demographic want? They're the up and comers. They're the ones that are going to drive the coffee industry. In 5 years, they're going to be the primary buyers of this coffee.